conservative, and those conservative figures are 4.5 million displaced Iraqis. In addition to, according to an Oxfam International report last July, another 4 million in dire need of emergency aid. When we add those up, taking into consideration of the fact that Iraq's overall population has dropped, when you have 2.5 million people leave the country and another million people killed, it's dropped from 27 down to probably 24, 25 million people. And when we add those numbers up, we're looking at, we're getting close to half the total population of the country have either been displaced from their homes. 1 in 4 people in Baghdad alone are displaced from their homes or in need of emergency aid or are dead. So we need to be really clear about the fact that Mr. Bush is a war criminal, and there's countless other war criminals in his this administration and his previous administration. And the situation on the ground for Iraqis is a complete catastrophe. Their country has been eviscerated. There's no normal life, and there's no end in sight.
I want to thank you, Dar Jamal, for being with us. Beyond the Green Zone, Dispatches from an Unembedded Journalist in Occupied Iraq is his book. Raed Jarrar, blogger and political analyst. He is the Iraq consultant for the American Friends Services Committee. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. As we turn now to look at the State of the Union coverage, looking at surveillance law, which is due to expire midnight Thursday. The Senate split over a current bill that would grant immunity to major telecom corporations that took part in warrantless spying on U.S. citizens. President Bush urged lawmakers to approve the immunity measure.
One of the most important tools we can give them is the ability to monitor terrorist communications. To protect America, we need to know who the terrorists are talking to, what they are saying, and what they're planning. Last year, Congress passed legislation to help us do that. Unfortunately, Congress set the legislation to expire on February the 1st. That means if you don't act by Friday, our ability to track terrorist threats would be weakened and our citizens will be in greater danger. Congress must ensure the flow of vital intelligence is not disrupted. Congress must pass liability protection for companies believed to have assisted in the efforts to defend America. We've had ample time for debate. The time to act is now.
The fate of the surveillance law is unclear. After 2 key votes in the Senate Monday, Democrats blocked a Republican-led effort to end debate, but lost a measure that would have granted a 30-day extension to continue discussion. At least a dozen Democrats have joined Republicans in backing the telecom immunity. Glenn Greenwald's been closely following the debate over government spying. A constitutional law attorney, his latest book is A Tragic Legacy: How a Good versus Evil Mentality Destroyed the Bush Presidency. He's a political and legal blogger for Salon.com, joining us now on the line from Brazil, where you've been closely following the debate in Congress, Glenn. I'm not sure how, but explain right now what's at stake, what happened yesterday, what's happening today in Congress.
Well, basically, it's been pretty clear in the Senate that enough Democrats are going to join all of the Republicans to support the bill that the White House wants, which is a bill that will give full immunity to all the telecoms who broke the law by allowing warrantless spying on Americans, and will also give the president vast new powers to eavesdrop on Americans without warrants. That's the bill that seems likely to pass the Senate with votes from all the Republicans and 10 to 12 Democrats. What the Republicans tried to do yesterday is to force a vote on that bill without allowing any of the amendments that certain Democrats are trying to offer to at least improve the bill a little bit. And Democrats stuck together and prevented a vote on that bill so that these amendments can be considered. The reality is that most of these amendments that are significant are likely to fail, and so the Senate will pass a bill that is the exact bill that the White House wants. The House, 6 weeks ago, passed a much better bill that does not provide immunity to telecoms and that does not provide warrantless eavesdropping. And so the question then will become, will the House stand firm behind its bill, or will it capitulate and pass a bill similar to the one that the Senate passed so that they can send it to the White House for signing?
Glenn Greenwald, explain the issue of telecom immunity.
We have had laws on the books in our country, 4 or 5 different federal laws, that make it a felony for telecommunications companies to allow spying on their customers by the government without warrants, or to turn over to the government records reflecting the communications activities of their customers without the warrants required by law. Those telecoms, not all of them, but many of them, including the largest such as AT&T and Verizon, were asked by the Bush administration to violate those laws and to allow spying and to turn over records without warrants, and many of them did so. And they didn't just do so for a little bit of time in 2001. They did so for years and years and years. And as a result, there are now lawsuits that have been brought by customers of those telecommunications companies and by privacy groups seeking damages for their having broken the law for years and years and years. And the Bush administration has been demanding that these telecoms be provided with an extraordinary gift, something that ordinary Americans would never get, which is retroactive immunity, that Congress would pass a law that has no purpose but to say the telecoms cannot be held accountable in a court of law for having broken the law over the course of the past 6 years. The real purpose of that is not to protect the telecoms from these lawsuits. They make billions of dollars a year, and they're not really worried about the monetary damage. The real purpose of immunity is that these lawsuits are the last remaining hope for actually finding out, exposing, and revealing how our government has been spying on us illegally for the past 7 years, and that's why they're so eager to get rid of these lawsuits, to make sure that those activities remain concealed.
And what do you think ultimately is going to happen right now in Congress and the Senate?
Well, clearly there are enough Democrats, led by Jay Rockefeller, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, who's a Democrat, who support telecom immunity and are not willing to fight the president on it. So it's clearly going to pass the Senate. The House, as I indicated, passed a bill that does not have it, and then the only question is, will the so-called blue dogs in the House abandon their own bill and join the Republicans in order to give telecom immunity? Based on how the Democrats have behaved over the past year, especially in national security, one ought to bet on their capitulating to the president and giving him what he demands, but that remains to be seen, and if enough Americans continue to express outrage over this, then perhaps the House Democrats will stand firm.
Glenn Greenwald, are the telecom companies still spying on Americans?
Clearly, they're still spying on Americans. I mean, we don't know the extent to which they are. The administration claims that many of these programs have stopped this year, that they've now begun spying only within the framework of the FISA court. And, of course, the whole purpose of what the Protect America Act did that was passed last August was to legalize warrantless spying. So the telecoms certainly are still spying, allowing spying on Americans with no warrants. It's just since the Democrats in August passed the Protect America Act, the difference is now it's legal for them to do so. Before August, it was illegal.
We're going to have to leave it there. Glenn Greenwald, constitutional law attorney. His book is called A Tragic Legacy: How a Good versus Evil Mentality Destroyed the Bush Presidency. He's a political and legal blogger at Salon.com. And that does it for our broadcast. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, Fabio Kadush, Aaron Mate, Angelique Kamet, Jeffrey Hagman, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Ravi Karen. Special thanks to Jay Salnur, Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, Peter Curry, our engineers. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for joining us.